You know that Keeley Companies is all about fostering the world-class culture through their incredible cultural pillars. Well, it was time to add a seventh cultural pillar, Keeley Green. Guided by the mission to raise the sustainability standards by which they design, build, operate, and live, Keeley Green is dedicated to using a holistic approach to leave a positive impact on our environment, create a future that is sustainable for generations to come. In the words of Rusty Keeley, we are just getting started. You can learn more about that just getting started mentality and all the work they do by visiting my friends at Keeley Companies online at KeeleyCompanies.com.
Welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. John is the two-time national best-selling author of On Fire and In Awe. He's a world-class inspirational speaker, the host of the Live Inspired podcast, and he's the real-life inspiration behind the major motion picture Soul on Fire. Each week, John interviews extraordinary individuals about their life stories so you can more fully live your life story. Here's your host, John O'Leary.
Well, my friends, the Voices of Soul on Fire series continues forward with one of its biggest names, representing one of its most important characters from the entire film. The character who this person plays is a hero of mine. His name is Jack Buck, the legendary announcer for the St. Louis Cardinals, inducted eventually into 11 Hall of Fames. Jack Buck was not only a mighty voice for good, but also a mighty impact of good in our community and beyond. In many regards, he helped save and then elevate my life while I was in hospital and then afterwards. So we needed a remarkable individual to portray this gentleman, and we found him. William H. Macy is Academy Award nominated several times. He is a superior actor. He's an outstanding leader. But what blew me away most by getting to know Bill, not only in this conversation, but during our time together before the filming, during the filming, and subsequently of the filming, is his humility, his humanity, his passion, his drive, and his desire ultimately to tell the truth. That's what he tries to deliver in every role he says yes to tell the truth. My friends, you're going to hear about his upbringing. You're going to hear about his admiration of his father. You're going to hear about his remarkable mother and how she dealt with heartache. You're going to hear about how he stumbled forward into acting and some of the keys of not only finding purpose, but what it means for you in your journey. So, brothers and sisters, family and friends, do me a favor, grab your box of popcorn. We are in the midst of launch week for Soul on Fire, and I have the honor of now bringing forward one of the biggest voices of the entire film to you right now. His name is William H. Macy.
Bill Macy, welcome to Live Inspired with John O'Leary.
Pleased to be here. Thank you for asking me.
For those who somehow missed my introduction and they don't know the name William H. Macy, when you bump into someone at a grocery store or somewhere random and they actually don't know you and they extend their hand and shake yours and they say, "What do you do?" How do you respond to that?
I say I'm an actor. Sometimes I'll meet someone and I'll say, "I'm an actor," and they'll go, "I know that." The other thing that happens is I'll see people and I'll go, "Hi, I'm Bill Macy." And they go, "I know." And I've taken to saying, "Okay, but that's your cue to tell me your name." It's called polite conversation.
We have that same trick in our family.
Yeah.
So most of the time, I would imagine these days you're known.
Yeah.
Let's take it back a few years to March 13th, 1950. You didn't grow up in LA. You didn't grow up in Colorado. You grew up in Miami, or at least the first years were spent there. I find your mom and dad fascinating.
How so?
Your dad, first of all, with his experience in the war, talk about what your father was like as a dad, not as a veteran, but as a dad.
He was great. I'm a lucky guy. My mom and I clashed a good bit, but my dad was my champion. And when I think of him, I think of, first of all, humor. He'd hear a good joke, he'd write it down and put it in his wallet so he wouldn't forget. And that was our thing. Pop, I got a new joke. And the second thing I think of is his honesty. He was about as straightforward and honest a guy as I've ever met in my whole life. He was an extraordinary fellow. Third thing I think of is that he could fix anything. He grew up in the Depression, so when something broke, he fixed it. And he was really good at it. this stunning mind. He told me a story he almost washed out of flight training. And he said he had been failing his whole life, and he was determined not to do it. And it was the math that was killing him. And he doubled down on it, and he did it. He got his license, got his wings.
You have prided yourself on trying, at least to the best you can, to tell the truth.
Yeah.
I assumed always that was through acting, but it seems like you learned that first through your dad.
Through my dad, yeah. It's sort of what actors do. It's our job to tell the truth. It's under imaginary circumstances, but I don't like it when people describe what we do as lying. That, well, you didn't, those aren't your words. You're just pretending. You lie for a living. And I heard my friend Dave one time do an interview, and he said, no, we tell the truth for a living. That's what we do for a living. So it's kind of the job to read the script and figure out what the truth is from your character's point of view. What's the truth? I think another important litmus test for all people who write and tell stories is you have to get a 1,000-foot view of it and ask yourself, is this a true story? Is it not did it happen, but is it true to the human spirit, the human experience? Is this true? And a lot of times, and I've done it, you think, I've got a great idea for a script, and you start writing it, and then it occurs to you, this isn't true. This is not going to fly.
Something that is true is that your mother had a tragedy she endured in 1943 when she lost her husband.
Right.
And I have a lot of grace for your mom, to go through that as a young person. How do you think that shaped her life after losing her first husband, and eventually even shaped the way she raised you?
I don't think she ever got over it. And when I try to put myself in her place, I don't know how you would get over it. She had a 1-year-old, my brother, and she was madly in love with this guy, and he goes off to the war and he never comes back. I don't know how you would recover from that. The injustice of it, the futility of it. I think it shaped her later life. I hope my mom had some fun in her life, but I'm not sure she had that much.
You had some fun in your life. You're still having fun, but I have about 11 different bullets to choose from right now, and I'm just going to take one. 14 years of age, and you go out for a talent show. It's your first real performance.
Yeah.
Take our audience through that performance.
Well, my brother came home from college. My brother's name is Fred, and he had learned to play a guitar. And I lost my mind. I just so wanted to learn to play a guitar because I've always loved music and I didn't play anything. So my dad bought me a guitar, God bless him, and my brother taught me some chords. And he had all these songs that he had a folk singing group. This was back in the days of folk singing groups. And there was one that was relatively off color. The punchline was, your papa ain't your papa, but your papa don't know. And there was a talent show at Allegheny High School all the time. And I thought, I'm going to enter the talent show. Oh,
it's
Lord.
a level set. This is 1964.
Yeah.
These are different, more innocent days.
Oh, my. They were eating their young. The whole student body just lost their minds. Right after my performance, they decided they needed to vet all the students were going to do in the future. But boy, when I got that first big laugh, I never got over it. I've been chasing it the rest of my life.
So let's talk about the pursuit of that. It drives you first into college and then ultimately up to Vermont. What were you seeking in Vermont?
Besides marijuana, I would say women. I had gone to school at a little liberal arts college called Bethany College, and I didn't like it. After 3 semesters where I had worked as hard as I possibly could, I got my grades back and I had a B-. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I was miserable. So I dropped out of school for a while. And my parents were okay with that for a little over a year. And then they started, what are you going to do? You got to go to school. This is when you had to go to college. So I went to look at colleges, and I went to Windham College in southern Vermont. And somebody said, "Oh, man, if you like this school, you got to check out Goddard College. It's right up the road." And it was a beautiful spring day. I had a Carmen Ghia that I had redone. And there was a lot of snow on the ground, but it was warm. It was one of those delicious early spring days in Vermont where the temperature was, I don't know, 55 degrees, but there was still a ton of snow out. Crystal blue skies. I took one look at that campus with all these hippie girls running around, and I was a goner. And truthfully, it was the premise of the school is you make your own fun. You have to figure out what you're going to do. There were no grades, there were no tests, there were no requirements. You had to figure it out. And interestingly, not many people could take it. They thought they were in nirvana for the first semester, and then they lost their minds and had to quit. They needed structure. But I met David Mamet, and he taught an acting class, and that changed the trajectory of my life. And Dave remains a pal to this day. And he taught me everything I know about acting. And we had some fun in Vermont because there were no rules. We just did theater all the time. We used to do these improvs we called etudes, and one of them lasted almost 2 days.
You mentioned no rules, except in David's class.
Yes. You've really done your research. Yeah, it was hippie days, so everyone wore military stuff. And Dave walked in, and he had on the military stuff, but his had been tailored and pressed. And he stood upright, and he started the class by saying, "You have to be on time. If you're not on time, we'll lock the door. If you're not here, if you miss 2, I'll throw you out." And all us hippies went, "On time? I know this concept, but why are you saying it?" And he described the theater as a church. It's a place to be held as sacred, that traditionally that's where people would go to hear the truth. And that's what we did for a living. And he turned acting into more than just something one did for a living. It was a calling.
Can anyone who desires to become a great actor become one? Is it work, or are you born into it and then you work to improve it?
It's a gift of God. I think the great actors were born great actors. You can't teach talent. You have what you have. You can work hard and become very skilled and have a wonderful long career. And anybody that has a long career will have moments of greatness. But the greats, no, they were born that way. I don't understand them. It's a gift.
What is it about theater that you love and that you love so much?
As opposed to films, or just the whole
Stay
biz?
with theater for now, and we'll shift into films next.
Believe it or not, I'm a bit of an introvert and shy, and it's the only place where I was comfortable under imaginary circumstances. I felt very comfortable there, and I felt free, and I felt brave. And to a large extent, I kept failing upwards. The more I succeeded, the more I succeeded. And like I said, Dave had made it a calling. So we worked really hard, really hard. Someone very wise once said, "If you love what you do, you'll never go to work a day in your life."
So I, as you know, am a speaker. I spend my days in front of live audiences. It's theater. I'm a motivational, a leadership speaker, but it is theater.
Totally.
And there's a buzz and a conversation that takes place between a stage and a population that is unmatched.
It's once you do it, you want more.
It's pretty addictive,
Yeah.
in particular if you're doing it for the right reasons. If you're doing it for your ego, you'll never get enough of it to fill it.
Yeah, right.
But if you're doing it to elevate the way people walk out of that room because of your performance, it will bring you back.
Yes.
You made it in theater. I've tried to pivot into some television work and commercials and stuff like this. It's really hard. That two-dimensional work behind a film is way different than theater. When did you decide to make a jump into television and then ultimately into film?
Well, all actors want to do films because they're the big medicine in the room. I was a bit snobbish coming out of Goddard. We went to Chicago and started a theater company. And one of the first plays we did was American Buffalo. And when they were going to do American Buffalo on Broadway, I turned up my nose at it. I thought, no, I don't need to go to New York. Chicago's a great theater town. But early in my career, if you're on stage all the time, someone will see you and say, hey, there's a little role. Do you want to do it? I think the first thing that I ever did was a pilot for a TV show, and it was called Sparrow, if memory serves. And I don't know why it would start now. But then I got a big job in a TV movie, a miniseries called The Awakening Land with Elizabeth Montgomery, who was a delight, and Hal Holbrook, who's a genius. And I was off to the races. I really like that. The life on set is so delicious. The confraternity that is formed, and you never be closer to people than you are on a film set. And you swear you'll be friends for life, and you never see them again.
The reaction from a live audience lets you know immediately you did well. 6 takes later, and then you switch the cameras around and you do 6 more takes. Then you wrap for the day and you do it again the following day. In performance behind a screen, how do you know that you're doing your work well? In particular, in the early days of your journey?
It's a great question. I think the answer is you have to have a goal other than, you sort of touched on this, you have to have a goal other than the support or the opprobrium of your audience. You need to be aiming at a different target. And as trite as it might sound, the stock and trade of the actor is to really look at people and really talk to people. And the imaginary circumstances take care of themselves. But what you need to do on stage or on film is put all of that stuff aside and really try to change your fellow actors to do your bidding. And so success is measured how well you did that or not. It's interesting about really looking and really listening. My wife, who's the smartest person I know, said on the 3rd season of Shameless, she said, what are you going to do this season, acting-wise? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, it's a dream come true. You get to go to work and every single day. And have you thought about working on some specific thing in acting? And I thought, okay, I'm going to double down on really looking and really listening. And I'll tell you how powerful that is. I discovered, because you forget all the time, I discovered I'd be doing a scene and I would go, okay, cool your jets, cowboy. Really look at him and really listen. So I would take a breath and I would really look at my fellow actor and really listen. And inevitably they went up on their lines. They go, oh, sorry. What's the line? I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. What happened was they saw me really looking at them and it shocked them. That's how powerful it is.
So what do you do with that knowledge?
You keep doing it, hopefully for more and more money.
Yeah. So then they get eventually better when you really look at them and really listen to them?
To a certain extent, yeah. Every production has sort of well, here's another way of putting it. If you're number one on the call sheet, meaning if you got the big role, you have a lot of power over the tone and the way we're going to treat each other and we're going to act. And if number one on the call sheet wants no part of that and is selfish, then there's a hole in it. Someone else has to fill it out. But number one has to set the tone for the actors. So that gives you a lot of power. And I think it's a big responsibility.
You were in 1,700 commercials, a whole bunch of TV shows.
Oh, no.
A whole bunch of movies.
No, I did thousands of auditions, but a dozen or so actual commercials. They never hired me, ever. I went to my agents one time. I said, why do you keep sending me out? They're not hiring me. They said, they keep asking for you. So I'd go in and audition and they'd love what I do, but never hired me.
Well, you eventually get hired the hard way when you apply and eventually get the job in Fargo. You and I talked about this when you were in town last, but our listeners may not know the story. I think it's awesome. What was it about your Fargo read that made you realize you wanted to be part of that production?
First, the script. The character of Jerry Lundegaard was written as he's slightly overweight and balding. And I was neither of those things. But other than that, I so totally understood everything about that guy. Immediately, it felt like it fit me like a glove. And so I really wanted it. Plus, it was the Coen brothers, and I was a big fan at that point. And I went in and I read for the detective. And they said, that's real good. Do you want to go work on Jerry and come back and do that? I said, yes, I did. So I went out in the hall and I worked on it, came back and said, that's real good. You want to come back tomorrow? And I said, yes, I do. I was up all night. Every actor I knew in LA came by, and I think I was off book of the whole script by dawn. So I went in and I said, that's real good. Thank you. And I found out that they were going to New York to audition. So I got my jolly ass on an airplane. I flew in and kind of crashed the audition. I didn't have an appointment, but they said, okay, sure, you can go in. So I read it again. They went, that's real good. And I said to Ethan, whose sense of humor I love, I said, I'm worried you're going to screw up this movie and cast someone else beside me. And I said, I can help with that. If you don't cast me, I'm going to shoot your dog. He had just gotten a puppy. I don't recommend that. I don't think it's a good, but it worked for me.
Why did that movie work for us? We're not even going to talk about shooting the dog. I don't think it's going to work in most interviews. It somehow worked for Macy. But Bill, why was Fargo the success that it was?
I think, well, for the Coen brothers, it was the most realized script that they had done to date. And I think it remains one of the most realized ones. They're magnificent filmmakers and funny and great storytellers, but sometimes their films are a little bit shaggy dog stories.
Yeah.
You get to the end and you had a great time, but you think, what did I just see? And Fargo was well crafted. And I think that part of the country hadn't been heard from for a long time. I think the accents were disarming to people, and to tell such a violent, upsetting story with those great accents, that was interesting. And they directed it brilliantly. There's some fabulous shooting in that thing. Great cast. Everybody worked together so well. Franny was delectable. She was so good. And I think I made a good choice, which is to play the lead. That's the way I looked at it. I thought the way I described Jerry Lundegaard is that he's trying to protect his family. He's got an overbearing, awful father-in-law, and he's hurting my family, and so I will do whatever I have to do to protect my family. And that's something you can fight for.
That success not only changed the Coens' future, changed yours as well. Have you auditioned since then?
Oh.
Meaning, like, when a script is put in front of you, they're asking you to portray a character these days.
It was such a big deal, and with the Oscars and all of that, but it takes about 1.5 years before you actually feel it. So I had auditions after that. But then it was Paul Thomas Anderson. He sent me the script of Boogie Nights, and I loved it. And I had seen his first film, and I, just like with Fargo, I desperately wanted to be in this movie. So we met at a restaurant, and I came in loaded for bear with how I was going to play it and what I thought the themes were and yada, yada, yada. And I didn't get 3 words out. And Paul started talking about the thing, and I was going to shoot it. And at a point I realized I've got the job. He's auditioning.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have a film of myself. You just saw the tension, and I sat back in my chair a little bit, and I loved working with Paul. He's a magnificent filmmaker. Great writer, too.
Before this, you dealt with rejection all the time. You mentioned the commercials, the TV series, the movies. Life serves up some rejection from time to time. What has it taught you about dealing with it in real time? So in facing the rejection in the past, how has it helped you deal with adversity in the present?
The only way to deal with it is it's most acute when it's a role that's good for you and that you really want. And when you don't get it, I used to say, if you're a 1 in a million kind of an actor, there are 7 of you in Manhattan. It really hurts when you earned it, but you didn't get it. And the reason you didn't get it is because 2 or 3 other guys did. And so they have an embarrassment of riches. If they want a blonde guy or a brunette guy or taller or shorter, they've found 3 people who can do the role. That doesn't always happen. So I think, to answer your question, you just have to learn to roll the punches. And I guess the repetition of that probably bleeds over into your real life, just to take rejection and go on. But nobody gets used to it. It's the worst part of the business.
What about criticism? Rejection's one thing, but then it's final. Criticism is pervasive, and anyone with a microphone can now level it towards you.
Yeah.
How do you handle criticism?
It never bothered me. I mean, there are critics that I have always enjoyed. One of our great champions in Chicago was Richard Christensen. And when I would read his reviews, I thought, wow, you're smart. And I agreed. There's nothing more disconcerting than to go to a play that got rave reviews and you sit there and go, this is crap. What happened? I think what happens is that sometimes the gods descend when the critics are there and it's just clicking. But it's a flawed play and a flawed production. And so sooner or later, the chickens come home to roost. But with the critics, I read them. I used to read all the reviews, and for plays, films, not so much. The late Mike Nussbaum, wonderful actor, lived his whole life in Chicago. He said, a good critic gives you a good review. If you get a bad review, that's a bad critic.
In 2012, the second couple in Hollywood's history together had their star imprinted on the sidewalk. I'm seated across from one of them right now. What was it like for you to receive such a prestigious honor and to have your wife next to you for it?
That's pretty swell. It's one of those, I mean, on one hand, it's a little bit dorky, and who cares? You know what I mean? But on the other hand, there it is. I like it. It'll be there longer than I'll be here.
So the other star is Felicity.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about her. I mean, you courted her on and off for 15 years. It's
Right.
a lifetime. What was it about her that kept drawing you back, and you that kept drawing her back into your life?
I can't answer for her. The second I saw her, I was gobsmacked. I never got over it. She rang every bell in my head. I wrote a song about it where I said, you were talking, but I could just hear noise. And I was punching above my weight. I got to tell you. And I've had friends who said, how did you do that? How did someone like you get someone like her? And I can only say truthfully, I don't know. And we've had a fabulous marriage. And I think it's because we love the theater. We met in the theater. We talk about it. We talk about each other's roles. We give each other notes. Don't try this at home, kids. I don't think it's a good idea. But for us, it's worked. It's the glue that holds us together. My daughter, Sophia, is an actor. And she'd sit at the dinner table and hear us talking about theater and how vicious we were with directors and scripts and writers and stuff. She said, I never want to do that. And I said, we both said, oh, honey, that's just sport. It's just what you do. And it's true. Some of the best times I've had in my life are those long spells where they're relighting something and all the actors are sitting around telling stories. And most actors are quite the raconteurs, and the stories are hysterical. I've never been so happy as when actors tell stories.
How can you tell when they're acting versus when they are real?
The
actors themselves. So you married one, you raised one, but you 9 to 5 and a lot longer hours than that work with them. And how can you tell when they're being authentic with you and when they're portraying a character they want you to believe they are?
No, you can't keep that ball in the air very long. I mean, nobody's that good an actor. I guess some con men are really good at it, but the scrutiny on them is not such that I would call it acting. I used to say, the thing about acting is that you have to be sincere. And once you learn to fake that, you can have a huge career. It's not all fake. It's 90% not fake. It's 90% planned and recited. But it's the 10% when you have a real moment. That's what makes the audience sit up. And I've always thought when you do a play, if you come home and you had one moment, you earned your money that night. One moment will do it. And it's not important that you have all these moments. It's important that you tell the story and that you're clear and direct. And when the gods descend, and it's a joy, but it's not, the success of the performance that night is not dependent on the muse. I've been descended on by the muse twice. One of them, Felicity, was on stage with me. It was a Mammoth play. We were at Lincoln Center. And it felt a little bit like you feel before you faint. I was a little out of it. And I had the experience of being outside of my body, watching myself act. And I clearly thought, and it only lasted for 30 seconds or a minute perhaps, I clearly remember thinking to myself, let him go. Just watch. Don't do anything. Just ride this as long as you can. And I wasn't, it's not a concept, it's real. Because Felicity in particular said, Lord, you were on fire. That moment that you blah, 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 and it was the muse. I'd love to see that, have that happen again.
You mentioned con men can portray who they aren't for a long time. Well, you portrayed a con man for about 11 years, Frank.
Yes.
You know, I'm apparently a pretty lousy read of script. I would have probably read that and thought, who in the world would watch this? This dirty old man and the family structure in Chicago and coming out of London. You read it and loved it.
Yeah. It's because, you know what Shameless is? It's about family values. And it needed Frank to drive the stories forward. And he was an addict and a drunkard, and he was capable of anything. It was a really interesting task as an actor because all the other characters changed. They literally grew up. I mean, Jeremy was, I don't know, 17, something like that. And the kids were kids. So they evolved. They grew up. They got lovers. They got cars. They changed. They evolved. Frank didn't. For 11 years, he was the same guy. And it was really tough on the writers. And I doff my cap to them that they could keep that ball in the air. And I'll take some credit for it, but for looking for the things that Frank said and felt that were true and unimpeachable. And it's always been a trick of mine. It started with Jerry Lundegaard, I've played characters like that. Frank is that way too, where the audience is rooting for me and they're horrified with themselves that they want me to succeed. People had such affection for Frank, but he did such despicable things.
With occasional moments of grace.
With occasional moments of grace,
So
well put.
we could spend the remaining 7 hours talking about the despicable things Frank Algar is guilty of. As you look back on those 11 seasons, what's the most beautiful thing Frank did?
He fell in love. This woman was dying of cancer, and she had a short time to live, and Frank meets her in a hospital and just lost his mind over this girl. And she stuck with him because she wanted adventure, and Frank was adventurous. And there was a wonderful moment where we're making love on the railroad tracks, and a train's coming, and I'm going, we should, and she wouldn't. And finally, at the last second, we dive off, and I go, "What's the matter with you?" And she said, "But Frank, I thought this is the way you lived your life." And I said, "No, I don't want to die. No." And it was a beautiful moment because she did.
Well, after 43 years of not wanting to die and truly living, after all the awards and the nominations and all the performances, you finally made it. You got the script for Soul on Fire. What was it about that script and that story and ultimately the character that you would portray that you realized, you know what, there's a lot of opportunities for me to work, but I want to be part of this film?
The story, your story, as you well know, is stunning, and people need to know it. And people need to not learn from it, but benefit from your notion of move forward. I think it's in Ecclesiastes where they say the definition of faith is that what you need will be there when you need it. And so the story is I was weeping like a baby by the got through the end of it. And then Jack Buck. It's not clear in the script why he did this. I mean, it's common knowledge that Jack did this a lot. And I did talk to Joe about it, and he sort of implied that maybe it was easier for Jack to give love and affection and support to people who weren't his family. And there's a lot of that going around. I recognize that myself. And we all know people who can love dogs but can't love people. And so I was fascinated by him, and I thought it was so swell that it wasn't explained. And he's an enigma, and that's a wonderful thing for an actor to get that kind of a role.
It's producer Amy here with a special invitation from John O'Leary. First things first, thank you. So many of you have done so much over the years, and together we've made it to this moment. We are just days away from the world premiere of Soul on Fire. And as we head into this final stretch, we want to have a little fun and, of course, give something back to you, our loyal Live Inspired podcast listeners. John's goal is to touch 1 million lives on opening weekend. It's bold, but with your help, we believe this can happen. Here's how. Join the Soul on Fire movement. It is a raffle tied to a few simple actions, many of which you've probably already done, and it's giving you a chance to win some pretty amazing prizes. The grand prize is a Soul on Fire Afterglow VIP experience with John O'Leary. John will personally take you to the landmark spots from the movie, introduce you to the heroes from his story, and show you his hometown through his very own eyes. The package also includes 2 first-class flights to St. Louis, a night at the Ritz-Carlton, and so much more. To join, just head over to johnolearyinspires.com/soulonfire. Again, that's johnolearyinspires.com/soulonfire. Now let's get back to the show.
You were on several different scenes, obviously, within our movie. Was there a favorite that you were able to portray for Jack?
Well, when John was in the booth, he wouldn't speak when he's a kid, and he wouldn't speak. That's pretty funny. I must admit, it's a terrible disease that actors have when they walk away from the day of shooting and said, "Oh, I wish I'd done this. Oh, I could have done that better. Oh, this." You can't do that. You'll drive yourself insane. You just have to let it go. But I did it a little bit, and I kept thinking, I wish I'd done more. I could have done this and I could have done that, because it's really funny. But for better or worse, I played it pretty straight and tried to make I probably made the right decision. I think what Jack was trying to do there was do a good broadcast and cover for the kids so that there aren't moments of silence, because silence on the radio is death. You just can't do that. 10 seconds is an eternity on the radio. That's a fun scene. And I guess the scenes in the hospital, those were, because they're so sparsely written, it fell to me to fill it up as to what exactly is going on. And I felt good about them because I made them specific. They say in our business, in general is the enemy of art. I think Stanislavski said that. But yeah, it was great. Also, I love being on the set. Everybody in town was in that movie, as far as I could tell, and their in-laws. And it was great. It was a good feeling. And Sean's a great director. We were talking about this earlier, that how he set such a light and lovely tone. And yet we raced through it, boy. I mean, if you got it on the second take, he moved on. And that's the scariest thing a director has to do, is say, we got it, let's move on, because it'll haunt you for the rest of your life.
So I send you videos occasionally just to send you proof of life that O'Leary is still alive and still an admirer of yours. One of those I sent before you got on set was of James McCracken. He's the little boy known as John O'Leary. And as he and I were having breakfast together on a Saturday morning, I said, man, what are you most excited about during the filming? And his answer was, I can't wait to meet William H. Macy.
Oh.
So we recorded a little video, he and I, and sent that to you. And then I talked to John Corbett, who's been in everything twice or 3 times for The Greek Wedding.
I know. Wasn't he good? He's so fine.
And when the camera's not rolling, he's finer.
I know.
He's such a good guy. And Stephanie Shostak and Macy McLean and Joel Courtney, all these great actors were thrilled for the day where you showed up.
Oh, that's so flattering.
But knowing that, how do you hear that and get flattered, but also at the same time measure that with not getting a big head? Because this isn't the first time people have looked forward to you arriving on the set. It's every time these days. But you're a humble man, and you're kind to people, and you don't wear it on your sleeves.
Well, it's a bit of a burden, too, because, I mean, I show up just as frightened as the other actors, not knowing how to do some of these scenes and praying to God that I'm going to be good. And it's a burden when everyone says, oh, you're great. It'll all be fine. We're not worried about you. And sometimes I want to say, maybe you could worry about me just a little bit. Because Shameless ran for so long, I worked with a lot of directors. And every once in a while I thought, are you watching what I'm doing? I need someone at the wheel here. Don't just love everything I do. But you know what? I'm the luckiest palooka, and I'm still working. And it's nicer by far to have people going, we really were looking forward to you coming, as opposed to, could you spell your last name, please?
Masie.
Yes.
Bill Macy. Here we go. Final question on Soul on Fire. When audiences walk out of theaters and away from their television sets eventually, what do you want them feeling?
Entertained. And in this instance, the entertainment involves being moved and being perhaps challenged a little bit. But it's a slippery slope. What do you want them to feel? Because that's not really what we should be doing for a living. It's called entertainment. And if it's not entertaining, you're going to fail. And if you make a film or even a play with the notion of, I want to teach, I want to change the world, that's a rotten reason to do it.
So let's move toward the finish line.
Okay. Always a good idea.
The tea is almost out. Mine's cold. I need to move on with my life and drive down to Denver. So here we go.
Drive for the curtain is what we say.
You pursued your dream and accomplished what you sought out to do. You had this wild dream up in Vermont of moving into theater, of starting your own theater, getting a little bit of help with your mom as that thing almost came to its conclusion. And then with her help and with the brilliant plays, came back to life, and then on to television, and then on to film. You lived the dream. You made it.
Totally.
For those who right now are listening to our conversation and they still have their dreams, but they've not yet been achieved, they're struggling in a relationship or spiritually or financially or professionally, what's your encouragement to them or advice?
Keep moving forward. Roll with the punches. Keep moving forward. Drive for the curtain. I got a lot of platitudes I could throw out here, but I you know what else? If that old game, if you could speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you say? I wish I hadn't taken as many things as I did so bloody seriously. I wish I'd let my humor rule a little bit more. And it's something my dad always tried to teach me tomorrow's another day. There's always hope. You're never finished. And I think it was Einstein who said, if you keep doing the same thing and want a different result, that's insanity. So my whole thing has been to move forward. And if that didn't work, I'll try something different, which is not to say that I didn't give up the theater and movies 24 times. And my friends who know me go, yeah. Okay. Can I have your makeup kit? Life is tough, but it's the only game in town.
We have 7 questions I wrap up every conversation. They're called the Live Inspired 7. Before we shift into them, we have 3 audience members. We have Gus and Beth and Jack. I'm not expecting much from Gus, the dog.
He can talk.
But Beth, Jack, do you guys have any questions for Mr. Macy? All right. Well, let's roll to the finish line. Bill, what's been the best book, the most impactful book you've ever read?
Probably Stanislavski's book, My Life in Art. It hit me at the perfect age, and I was filled with this drive to make art, whatever that is. And then one I quote all the time is called Electric Universe, The Shocking Story of Electricity. It's a fabulous book. I recommend it to everyone. And this guy tells the story of electricity from Cro-Magnon man looking at those flashes in the sky and wondering what they were to Silicon Valley. And he ties them together, and it's a page turner, and it's very funny. And it really, for me at least, for the first time, I sort of looked around me and I thought, oh, I kind of get how this works.
What's one positive characteristic or one trait you possessed as a 10-year-old in Cumberland, Maryland, that you wish you exhibited as brilliantly today?
Boldness. Up until the time I was 20, if you asked me to do something, I would try anything. To disastrous results often, but I guess that's growing up. But I wish I had the boldness that I did when I was 10 years old and didn't question so much. And, writing. I just finished a script. Writing is one. It's sort of a rule. Don't go back and read what you wrote. Finish the whole thing, then go back. And it's the lack of boldness that makes you want to go back and fix that paragraph. I just can't go forward until I get that paragraph perfect. So boldness.
If your home caught fire and Gus and Felicity and your kids are out safely and you have an opportunity of running in and grabbing one physical item, what's the one thing you grab?
Well, it'd be boring to grab your computer. I've got a ukulele that I just adore. It was built in, I think it's 40s, and it's a Martin ukulele. I'd grab that.
If you could sit on a bench with anybody, living or deceased, and have a long conversation, who's that person you want next to you?
Probably Abraham Lincoln.
What's the best advice Abraham Lincoln or anyone else ever gave you? So the best advice Bill Macy has ever received is?
Well, it's a line from Dave's plays. Always tell the truth. It's the easiest thing to remember.
You mentioned this a moment ago, but I'll let you regurgitate it if you want. If you could give yourself some advice at age 20, what would you say?
Calm down, learn the lines, have faith.
William H. Macy, it has been said that all great people can have their lives summed up in one sentence. How would you like yours to read?
He had his moments.
William H. Macy, you indeed have had your moments, and I feel supremely blessed that I've been able to share a few of them with you.
Well, thank you, Johnny. Thank you. And thanks again for letting me do that movie, and thanks for coming here, and it's lovely to see you all again, and let's make sure we see each other again.
That's a wrap. Genius.
Well done.
Genius.
Well done. You've done this before.
First time.
Yeah.
Well, my friends, wasn't that an incredible conversation with a remarkable, not only actor, but human being. It was filmed on location at his house. Yes, we were sipping on tea. My wife was there. My son, Jack, was there. And the man who portrayed Jack in the film, William H. Macy, was there. Speaking of the film, do you know that as of today, it is opened nationwide and around the world? Did you know that you can get your tickets for Soul on Fire, where you can watch Bill's performance of Jack Buck, along with all of the other voices of Soul on Fire's performances in their own roles? You can even watch John Corbett, who will be joining us next week in his role as my dad. It is an incredible film, and we are trying to inspire 1 million lives opening weekend. I can't do that, but we can. Together we can. Here's my ask of my friends. Do me a favor, go to soulonfiremovie.com. soulonfiremovie.com. Click in the nearest theater to your town, to your village, to your city, to wherever you're hanging out today, and go ahead and grab some tickets. Yes, bring yourself, start there, but also loved ones, family, friends. Why not extend it way across the aisle to a neighbor, someone you work with, worship with, work out with? Let's fill these theaters, my friends. It is an incredibly powerful, inspirational, accurate portrayal of miracles taking place through ordinary individuals. It's an invitation to do likewise in our lives, and it's all available right now in theaters around the world. Learn more at soulonfiremovie.com. Well, family and friends, if you have not yet subscribed to the Live Inspired podcast, do so right now to make sure you get next week's episode with John Corbett. And I want to thank you for being part of our family here. Looking forward to seeing you at the theater. You will leave inspired. You will leave with your soul on fire. So family, for this time, and until next time, my name is John O'Leary. And today is our day. What a gift, man. Opening night. Live with your soul on fire.
Keeley Companies was started almost 50 years ago by the one and only Larry Keeley. What started as a small family-owned paving company in St. Louis has grown to a nationally known full-service construction, development, and restoration partner. Larry the Legend, as he is affectionately known, has been a part of this growth every step of the way and continues to provide guidance as his son, Rusty, my buddy, drives their vision and achieves results on purpose. His unwavering foundation of a family culture with a focus on people has gotten Keeley Companies to where they are today, and their journey is truly just beginning. To learn more about Larry the Legend and Keeley Companies, check them out at KeeleyCompanies.com.